Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I need to test this audio for a second. Thanks for joining. You'll hear a bit of double. I need to test this audio for a second. Thanks for joining. Cool. That is working. We're good on ZBrush Live and Twitch. That is working. We're good on ZBrush Live and Twitch. Yep. Okay, sweet. All right, so thanks for joining everyone. My name is Aiman Akhtar. Happy Thanksgiving and Black Friday to whoever is celebrating Black Friday. And outside of the States, welcome to ZBrush Livestream. So once again, my name is Aiman Akhtar. I'm a 3D artist here in LA, and I specialize in 3D printing. So I do a lot of large-scale sculpture, small-scale, stop-motion animation parts, toy prototyping. You can learn more about my work at aiman3d.com. And latest project is called Fungusaurs. It's an IP that my wife and I have been developing as our own animated series pitch, as well as games and toys. So that's at Fungusaurs. You can scroll down and see where all these cute creatures travel on the game previews. And you can follow us at Fungusaurs on Instagram. Yeah, today we're having the Black Friday sale, 20% off side-wide. Okay. And speaking of things for sale, since that's apparently what people do today, there is my keys and articulation IMM brush, which I'm not going to bother discounting because it's pretty cheap already. But if you're interested in learning how to slice and key and articulate your own meshes, you can check that out. That's on Gumroad, Keys and Articulation Brush. And then I've got my course, 3D Printing for ZBrush Artists. So if anyone's interested in learning everything I know about 3D printing, you're going to get 8 weeks worth of lessons here, only $200. And you're going to learn everything from keying, slicing, fashion, wearables, jewelry, miniatures, posing, and making your own toys and prototypes. So that's Mold 3D Academy, 3D Printing for ZBrush Artists. All right, so I'm one of the presenters for ZBrush Live. There's a whole bunch of us, awesome artists, that are doing these live presentations for everyone around the world to watch. You can go to Pixologic.com, ZBrush Live Presenters, and watch all of Shane Olson's. Everyone's presentations are over here. So mine are recorded in posterity as well. If you go to Aiman Akhtar Past Broadcasts and Schedules, you can see today is my last stream of November, probably my last stream of the year. I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break in December in order to just unwind. But you can see some of my work here. There's the Fungusaurs project. And do I have to go back? I think I have to go back. Yeah. Here's a dress that I did for 3D World magazine back in 2015. There's actually an article about this and the new Form 3. We did a test plate print. And my own business, 3D Smiths, where I help people take their 2D designs into 3D sculptures for mostly animation pitches. But if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see all of the previous streams that I've done here. So all of the live streams, there should be pages and pages. There's over 50 live streams here that I've done with ZBrush, so you can go through all of them. They're all free, and just get a sense of how you can take ideas from your head, whatever the hell you imagine, sculpt it in ZBrush, get it 3D printed, and become a physical object. So that's kind of what my streams are about, though I bounce all over the place from, subject matter, anywhere from masks to articulation to, toys and displays. Last week, actually, I did 2 weeks ago a cartoon. Let's see. I did this display piece where it needs to be engineered. Created for my Fungusaur series. I'm trying to create like something that is a wooden display to show them off at expos with a little space for an iPad. But I like to start every stream with a little bit of a show and tell. So I can do that a little bit right now. Let's see. Interesting. Yeah, this is the one. So this is 2 weeks ago. I did Darkwing Duck based on a model by my friend Adam. And I showed you guys how to slice and key it up, and I went over some of the new ZBrush features for slicing, keying, bullioning, all using that gumroad brush I mentioned earlier. So this Darkwing Duck model, since I like to start my streams with a little bit of show and tell, I'll give you guys an update on where this ended up. First in ZBrush and then the actual 3D print. And then we'll move forward from there to today's project, where I'm going to be turning myself into a John Wick action figure, which actually you guys can't see much at all. But John Wick. Alright. So let me make sure that everything is up and running. I am live in the Zstream chat, Restream chat, so I can see your comments from YouTube, Twitch, everywhere else. Happy holidays, everyone. The terror that flaps in the night. Yes, Darkwing Duck references. I love it. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. All right, so let me post links up to these so you can see them. Keys, brush, and my class. And since having that Black Friday sale for Fungusaurs, I'll post the link to my site too. A little bit of a shameless self-promotion before we begin the stream. All right. So then, let's give you an update on Darkwing Duck. I'm going to open up ZBrush. I'm just really happy I was able to wake up and make it to do this, make it to work to do this today, because had a lot of turkey last night. Thanksgiving is probably the most American of holidays, just because it's all about excess. You're just stuffing yourself. All right, so what I like to do is kill the range and then double the size of my document and click AA half. That's how I begin my ZBrush working, just because I like to have a clean interface. And by clicking on AA half, I'm anti-aliasing the surface. So anything I draw on there now, the edges won't be rasterized. Okay, so I'm going to load tool and navigate over to my desktop. Darkwing Duck. All right. See a couple of models that are layered on top of each other. So here's like a decimated complete model. And I usually do this, even if it loses detail, at really, really low settings, just so I can figure out the scale. Usually what I'll do is I'll have this piece turned on with everything else. So here's all the ways it was keyed. Turn skin shade on. So there's the one side of the cake and the other side. You have the head separated as well. And you can see I hollowed the head. That's why you see that hole in there. And I can show you on the inside. Turn on double-sided. So I hollow pretty conservatively. So I leave a bunch of thickness there for the resin. If you hollow too much, then you're going to start getting holes in your mesh, because the resin will find a way to leak through, or isopropyl when you do your prints. There's the hat. So the hat just kind of keys and sits on. A little bit of hollowing there. I didn't want to hollow all of the brim because it's really thin already. So all I hollowed was just the center portion of it. So you can see, you can choose how much you want to hollow, because this hollowing by default in ZBrush would have gone all the way. I just kind of capped it right there. The base, in fact, I did not hollow. So this is a solid piece print, and I did that because I wanted some weight at the bottom. This is something you have to think about when you're doing your prints. You have to engineer them. So I wanted the heavy piece at the bottom, so I didn't bother hollowing it, but I did hollow the body. You can see how the body's been hollowed. And I didn't hollow this leg because I wanted that leg to be strong. It's holding up the weight of everything just on one foot. So you can be very selective what parts you hollow in ZBrush. Alright, so once I have all of my parts finished, this is the Darkwing Duck model that made by my friend Adam, and I have sliced and keyed it up. And once I'm ready to export, I merge everything, and I have this model which is kind of a super decimated version of that model, and I have everything else on as well. So everything I want to export, I have it on. I click on my merge piece, and then I set the scale. That's the point I can choose to set the scale. I go to Z plugin, 3D Print Hub, inches if you're more familiar with inches, millimeters if that's your preference. I recommend millimeters because most 3D printing software is built with millimeters in mind, and if you export with millimeters, that's the natural way it'll import into a lot of software. But inches is what Americans are more familiar with, so we could do something like a 7-inch print or an 8-inch print and export to STL with the export option saying all visible subtools should be exported to STL. And 8 inches will be what it sets as the height or width, the longest dimensions for this guy. And it'll carry that measurement over to keep everything else proportionally the same size. And you can choose that here in the 3D Print Hub settings. You can go to export to, let's see, the scale. You can go to the size options, and this is for all tools. So if for all tools is checked, then whatever I set as my scale for the largest piece, everything else will be in proportion to that. If I don't do that, then, and I do it per subtool, then every single piece will be 8 inches. So that's basically how I do it, and then I can click export to STL and make a new folder here. And call this, it doesn't really matter what I call this. I usually do it based off the names in my subtool. And so I'll say, when this window pops up, ask file name for each subtool, or use subtool name as file name. It's going to think about it for a second. It says files were successfully exported. So I'll navigate over to that folder now. Here's all the STL files that we just exported, and we can open them and test them out. So let's open up, say, the head in PreForm. That is the print prep software for Formlabs. I have a couple of Form 2 printers, and so that's the print prep software for those, the resin-based software. Forgot to mention, if you all have any questions, just drop them in the Restream chat, and I'm going to reply to you as soon as I can. I check it every once in a while. Actually pop it over on my other monitor now. Alright, so when I opened up this PreForm now, it's asking me do I want to use millimeters or inches, and since I exported out of ZBrush in inches, I'll use inches. Here you can set the settings for which resin you want to use, what resolution, the microns. The smaller the microns, the longer it'll take. 50 microns is plenty on a Form 2. And here's the head. So everything else is going to come in proportional now, just because of the way I exported it in ZBrush. So say if I wanted to go to this and bring in the hat should come in proportional to the head. If I click use inches. So there we go. So now I can prep both of these pieces to print. Something like that. You can rotate and move pieces around. And then you can do the supports. So I like to have everything at a slight angle. And if you have ventilation holes, you want those ventilation holes pointing downward. So this is a ventilation hole, so I kind of want this to be upside down, in fact. or something like this. I think that'll be better. Ventilation hole there, and you won't get any unnecessary supports on the face. This is purely for resin-based 3D printing. If you're doing FDM style printing for plastic extrusion printers, then you want flat on the surface whenever possible. Life-size dolls on YouTube is asking, is it all basically the same if you're using a Creality printer? Yeah, a Creality is a resin-based printer, so it's all the same. You're going to import your model into their print prep software. You're going to add supports, which you can auto-generate in this case. Is that Darkwing Duck's male wife from a parallel universe? Maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that particular episode. I did recently try watching it again on Disney Plus, and man, it's a treasure trove. I've been more obsessed personally with gargoyles. Like I'm watching all of the gargoyles. I finished season 1, season 2, almost season 2. Season 2's got a lot more episodes. All right, so it's generating the supports for this. Meanwhile, I'll just open up and show you what I ended up doing. I do have all the supports already done. It's kind of like a show where they show you the turkey going into the oven, and then it's already out of the oven. So here's the base with the supports. Here's the body with the supports. The Cape 1, Cape 2. A lot of supports on Cape 2. Just this weird shape, you know. The hat and the head. And so these are all the pieces that I set up, and I printed them over the past week. So I'll show you the prints, how they turned out now. Let's see. Here's PreForm now. It's actually made all the supports. And you can see like you can choose the density. There's a bit too many here. So I can choose the density to be really low, like 0.6. And the touch point size also you can adjust to say what size you want that point to be. That's the touch point size right there, where it actually touches the print, the support size. So you can make all of that lower. And I don't want that many supports on the face and eyes, so I'm going to rotate this a bit more. And click auto generate for both. And it'll update based on your settings. Grim Reaper on Twitch is saying, often thought about trying to do some fan art of Cold Stone, but never get around to it. I mean, Cold Stone's this awesome character. He's half mech, half gargoyle, for those who don't know who Cold Stone is. Let me pop it open. Cold Stone. Because I just watched the Cold Stone episodes a couple nights ago. Gargoyles. So here's the Cold Stone character. Half mech, half gargoyle, like I said. Yeah, I'm sure if people do it today with all of the updates in ZBrush and make an awesome character, he would be amazing. Need to be bigger pictures of Cold Stone. There we go. Well, I encourage you, man. Go for it. Grim Reaper saying there was a lot of Star Trek characters in Gargoyles. You're right. There were. The guy who plays Xanatos is Riker from... why am I blanking on the name? Star Trek The Next Generation. Yeah, the one with Jean-Luc Picard. And so this was played by William Riker. I can't remember his actual name. Riker. Actor. There you go, Jonathan Frakes. Yeah, he's done a ton of voice acting. All right. So here it'll also tell you what parts could use more supports or less. So you can add them as you choose. So I can click Edit and go in and just tap where I want to add additional supports, and it'll kind of add them in. And it'll update this redness with your additional supports. So there you go. Now this kind of thing is ready to go to print, and in that case I just click press print, start a print, and it'll send it over to the printer. I don't care about getting rid of all of the red. It's just you get a sense of it after doing it for a while. Jonathan Frakes got fat. He might have. I wouldn't blame him. All right, cool. So let me open up let me show you how the Darkwing Duck prints turned out. Make this webcam a bit larger. And I haven't done this yet since I moved everything in my office around, but I want to try to rotate this. See if you all can see the printers, the printer station. All right, okay, that kind of works. Okay, so over here, I've got my two Formlabs printers. These are the Form 2s. And I've got my Raise 3D N2 Plus. So this is the big printer I do all my FDM stuff in. These are the printers I do all my resin stuff in. So let's start by gloving up. It's a good idea to wear gloves when you work with resin. This is the kind of workspace you'll need. You could keep them at home, but printers can get loud, so just have to be careful about that. All right, so here's the prints of the base. This is done in clear resin, and then this is the head. You can see done in white resin. So these are fresh that were done last night, so I need to still remove them from the build plate and check them out. Keep them here for a second. I just recently got the Form wash unit, so this will wash the resin for you. But if not, there's you can just dip them in resin as well. I've got that set up over here. I want to come bring over the prints I've already done and show you those first. So here is the cape, or the one side of the cape. You can see it turns out pretty, really highly detailed. You can see all of the wrinkles on the back side of the cape. The hat, it's kind of hard to see. I know the white tends to blow out in the webcam view. Let me show you the clear print. So here's the body in clear. And so this was basically a 7-inch height for the whole character, I think. But yeah, this turned out pretty nice. And then the other piece of the cape. So the whole point is these pieces of the cape are going to join together over here like that. It's gonna kind of hard to show with the supports on. But you'll notice something else that happened. There's a hole right there in the print. And this happened because I hadn't checked this, but my ZBrush mesh was kind of doing this, where you've got the two surfaces and they were kind of intersecting with each other, or they were really close to each other. And when they're super close or intersecting, it'll break that area apart and you'll get a hole. So that's the one thing you have to watch out for when you're 3D printing, is to make sure your mesh is thick all the way around. And it's hard to tell sometimes in cloth, since there was a wrinkle right there. And I'll need to patch that up. All right. So I'll show you what I do when I get a print out of the printer. I'm basically going to slide the build tray into a stand that can hold it all up. So now I've got like a good hold on it on this stand. And this is the head print again. And I'm going to come over to it with a tool, which is a simple tool for prying. So you can just kind of pry stuff off. And go over to it and pop it off. And there it is. It just comes right off. So there's the head now, and I'll go throw it in the isopropyl tank. And then people are asking about the patching, so I'll show you some of that patching technique. I'm just going to dump this in the tank of isopropyl that I've got there. Isopropyl alcohol is the agent that can cure that resin completely. Or not cure, but it does make it not sticky anymore. I'm removing the base now. bit of a harder pull. There we go. So there's the base. I'll drop that in there as well. Then you can just kind of wipe your tools and your build platforms, and you can put them back in the printer, ready to print again. So I take a little bit of that isopropyl from the tank and use it on a paper towel to just clean it up. You could also use a scraper and just kind of scrape to make sure that surface is clean. And so this is the kind of little bit of messiness that you have to deal with resin prints. That's how you get the quality though. So whether you're using an Anycubic printer or Frozen, I think is the new one, or there's another one, the Piapoli printers, like the Moai or the Phenom. All of those are resin-based printers, and you need a little bit of space to do this kind of thing. Alright, so that's one back in the printer, and I'll do the same for the next one, and I'll show you a bit of the 3D printing patching technique. People are asking if today's a good day for 3D printer deals. I think it is. Everyone's going to be having the Black Friday sales on the 3D printers, so you can get some good deals today. Just wiping all that resin clean. You don't have to do this, but I recommend doing it just so you can have a clean build platform going into the printer for whenever you start your prints. And that is good. And now the printers are ready to start on whatever the next print is. I'm going to take a couple of these paper towels and lay them out to put my prints on. And I'm kind of just wiping it right now. As I bring it out of the isopropyl tank, I'll just give it a good clean wipe. And it looks pretty nice. So I'll remove the supports at a later point and then UV cure and then assemble it all together, and then we'll have the statue. Wanted to remove the head from the isopropyl because it's a hollowed print. I don't like to let those sit in isopropyl too long because they tend to warp, but the base is a solid print, so that could probably be in the isopropyl for a lot longer. All right. So hopefully that gave you guys an idea of what it's like to work with resin-based printers. Let's see. So the name of the printer behind me, Phoenix Mario Filipovich on Facebook. The name of the printer behind me is the Formlabs Form 2. So I'll show you the Form 2. So basically the Formlabs line of machines, they're all resin-based printers, and they can print pretty high resolution and professional desktop printers. So they're about the $3,500 price range. They do have a Form 3 that's come out recently, and so that printer, and they're coming out with the 3L apparently next year. All right, 2 and Form 3. So that's the name of the printers, and then the other one I have is the Raise 3D N2 Plus, which I don't know if they're selling the N2 Plus anymore. I think they moved on to the Pro 2 Plus. But this is the printer that can, it's pretty big. It can print 12-inch by 12-inch by 24-inch build volume for FDM. So here you can get a sense of it for scale next to a person. So pretty large printers. And this is also, the Pro 2 Plus series is also 3,500 range, and you can add more to it. Here, this one is 6,000, but you get a lot for the scale. The other printers that I've heard good things about, and I see they look pretty good, is the Frozen Transform. So this is a big printer, and it's Frozen is spelled with a PH. And so this is a competitor to Formlabs, and it's basically a much larger than a standard Formlabs printer for $2,000, which is way cheaper than a Formlabs printer. The thing about 3D printing is that you want to go with people that will give you good customer support, and that's what I always recommended Formlabs. But it really, depends. Different people have different experiences. I've had people tell me they have horrible support from Formlabs recently when they got their Form 3s and it isn't working, and they're trying to get feedback, and the support keeps telling them to do more test prints. But obviously, if it's a brand new printer that just arrived, then it must be broken. And that's why I never get the first generation of any of these printers. Like the first run of a new printer, let other people test it and then get the next run. The other one is this Peopoly Phenom. And so this is also a resin-based printer that is very large. And it's currently back-ordered because it's that popular right now. And this has, let's see if I can figure out the build volume. Here we go. Almost 11 inches by 6 inches by almost 16 inches. So that's a big build volume for the Peopoly Phenom. Also less than 2,000. So 1,799. So these printers are getting cheaper as the patents expire, as these companies compete with each other. These printers are getting a lot cheaper, which is good for us as the creators and consumers of this tech. '19 Black Friday deals on 3D printers, filaments, and more. I'm sure if you do a little bit of Googling, you can come up with all of this, but the Anycubic printers, which are solid resin-based printers, are really low now, like $299, $179. I mean, that's really affordable for you all to get started just playing with this stuff. Creality is a good FDM-based printer, and those are the really affordable FDM printers that I recommend. Here, I can post this link in the chat as well. Any special on my 3D tutorials for Black Friday? No, not really. I haven't done any kind of deal for my classes. I am just doing the Black Friday deal for Fungisaurs. If you all want to help me support with the toys. Here we go. The Pro 2 printer and card bundle is now 4,600 on the Raise 3D site. And let's see, did I miss Formlabs? Yeah, Formlabs doesn't seem to have a deal here. Let's see. Friday. All right, I don't see any Black Friday deals on the Formlabs site. But in any case, that's the 3D printers. Okay, Sumerian King is asking about my classes. So I do online classes at Mold 3D Academy. So you can go to Mold 3D Academy ZBrush 3D printing for ZBrush artists. It's self-paced, so you get 8 weeks of lessons for $200. And the other thing I do is this keys and articulation gum brush on Gumroad. So that's only $10, and you can get the Z tool, and you can get all of these files as IMM brushes to start playing with the articulating and slicing up your own models. This is what I use to do the Darkwing Duck file. I mostly use the tapered Boolean key down here and the tapered keys, just because, you know, simple tapered key squares are the best way to just quickly slice up and put together your mesh. And then I did some custom stuff with the cape. So the class, I'll drop the link in the Restream chat again. And yeah, if you're interested, check that out. All right, so another question on Twitch is, how do you combine scale of a model without merging subtools? So that's what I just showed earlier in my stream. In ZBrush, I've got all the separate keyed models, which are, here's the final pieces. And then I merge them all to create this merge subtool that I decimate. That's the thing in 3D Print Hub, in ZPlugin 3D Print Hub. I set the size, and then I export all the visible subtools as STL, and it'll export all of these pieces in proportion based on the scale of the big one. So without merging them, it'll export all of them at the right size. You bring them into your print prep software, and there you go. All right, so that's enough about 3D printing and all of this you know, past project stuff. Let's move on to today's project. So what I wanted to do is John Wick. Or I guess Aiman Wick. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn myself into John Wick in honor of Black Friday, the blackest heart in the world. And what I'm going to do is turn myself into an action figure. So I'll show you, this is something I used to want to do as a kid all the time, is, you know, kind of become my toys. And I've got a John Wick action figure here. Let me pull this up. Wrong window. There we go. All right. So here's a John Wick action figure. This is made by Medicom Toy Corporation. And so we'll look this up and see if they have any deals on this. And I'll show you kind of a similar process. So I'm going to take this guy out of here. And what I'm going to do is show you kind of a finished thing that I've already done. So this is done for a client project, but the idea is the same. Here's the action figure, so you can see it's all posable and reactive, and you can actually play with this. It's got a lot of points of articulation, and it comes with the whole John Wick machine gun set. And you can see I've done a head replacement. So this head is a 3D head printed on my Form 2 for my client. I'm going to pop that off. You can see the head comes off pretty clean. Just got a simple, I don't know, a ball joint, I guess, in there. Pop that off. And there's the neck. So the neck is kind of its own little thing. I can grab the actual John Wick head. So here's the John Wick head. It's actually, let's see if I can stop this camera from autofocusing a little bit. There you go. It's a really good paint job. Like, I feel like it's too good. Like, I feel like it's a stamp or something, because it looks just like Keanu. All right, so I'm going to take that and put it back on so you can see how it works. You just kind of stick the neck joint back in there, and it'll key into place. And then you stick that into the body, and that'll key into place. And so now you've got this, you know, this is how the toy comes, the John Wick toy from Medicom. And we'll see if we can get a little price on this toy online. And I'm going to try to make a new head for me and replace that head. Get it painted up, and then I've got a little John Wick me action figure. I've already got the scale figured out because I did the project for a client. So I might as well do it for me. And let's take a look at John Wick Toy Medicom. Medicom. That's the one. It's on eBay for $22. Let's see. Or we can see if there's sales or deals going on anywhere for it. And I guess it comes with a few different head options anyway. But this is one cool thing you guys can do as 3D sculptors is create your own toys, or replace parts for your toys to create your own dioramas. Let me navigate over to, let's see, shopping, I guess, because I see it on eBay, but I want to see if I can see a better deal. I don't really like shopping on eBay. This one's $130 on Amazon. That's so strange. It must be a much larger one. Yeah, this is a different one. This is the Diamond Select Toys one. This one looks right, but it's so much more expensive on Amazon than it is on eBay. Which is very strange. Let's see, let me go to Medicom's site actually. I guess it's a toy that ships from Japan, but it doesn't need to be Medicom. You guys can test it out with any of the toys that you have currently. Measure the, see how you take them apart and put them back together with your own 3D printed pieces. Oh man, Japanese websites are like the hardest to navigate. Yeah, that's crazy that it's 130 bucks. I'm wondering if that eBay one was set on auction. Now you can buy it now for 24 bucks. I think that's what I should do. See, that's why I didn't want to deal with that. Anyways, that's the toy I'm going to get, and I'm going to put my head on it. So let's get into ZBrush and go about how we're going to do something like that. So I'm going to start by going to the model. Let's see, that I've got. Where did I put that model? There we go. So here's the head that I've sculpted for my client. Mostly hair sculpting, a lot of hair sculpting in order to make this look good. And if you take a look at the hollow, you see the head isn't hollowed because there isn't really a reason to hollow a head that's that small. You're not saving that much on resin. But what you do see on the inside, this is what the ball joint looks like. So you've got a space in there for that neck to fit into, and then a space for that ball joint to fit into. So that's the important part you need to do to be able to have your print fit into the toy, is to make sure you have this cavity in place. Close out of these. Make sure I've got Restream open, so check your questions. All right, so Pixel Desire is asking, was it trial and error getting the right size for the head to fit on the joint? So actually the fitment, it wasn't trial and error because I have a pair of calipers where I can measure the key itself. I'll show you those. So actually, if y'all are interested in buying anything today on Black Friday, I'd recommend getting a pair of these calipers. They're awesome, they're very useful, and they can tell you scale measurements a lot better than, you know, just winging it or using a ruler. You can measure really accurately with calipers, and then it's got an LED display to kind of tell you the exact scale of something. So I use this to measure the key. So this key right there on the neck, I use the calipers to measure that. And that was accurate. However, it took 2 prints to figure out the right proportion. So what I mean by that is I did this white print first. And though the key fit in perfectly, the head was a bit small. So I had to do another one where the key is about the same in both of these prints, because that I measured. But then the head is much larger. And that's the thing you always have to do test prints for. So for example, I can show you, if I drop him in there, it works, but the neck doesn't fit in. The key works perfectly. He's locked into place, but his head doesn't fit inside the neck. So that's a problem. Also, the head looks really tiny as compared to like the John Wick head that it came with. So you know already that, you know, well, yeah, you didn't get the head scale right. And so print number 2, that fits in perfectly, and it fits in the neck. And so it feels a lot more correct proportionally. And this is just, you know, the nature of printing is you kind of have to do multiple prints. All right. Got a question. How do you usually figure out the scale in ZBrush? Because there aren't great tools for it in program. So yeah, I don't like figuring out scale in ZBrush. I like to figure out scale in Maya, then import into ZBrush. That's my workflow. You can do it in Modo. You can do Cinema 4D. You can do Max. There's a lot of different software you can figure out the scale, not in ZBrush, then bring it into ZBrush. Or go the opposite direction. Sculpt whatever the hell you want, then figure out the scale when you export. That you can do in ZBrush just using the 3D Print Hub. But that doesn't work very well for anything that needs to be accurate to scale. All right. So then, let's see if I missed any questions. Life-size dolls on YouTube a little while back asked, what's the best source for resin and what's it look like? So when I order resin, based in California, because let me give you an idea first. The Formlabs materials, like if I go to their resin library, you can see the standard resins and all the others. Let's see. They have gray resin, clear, draft, color. They have a lot of different types of resins. Let's go to the order page. So you can see all the resins are about 150 bucks per liter or more. Some of these, you know, the castable wax is almost 300. High temperature resin. And they've got all sorts of different resins for the Form 2 specific and the Form 3. So if it's 150 bucks per liter, that basically comes down to being, let's divide it, 150 divided by 1,000. So that's about 0.15. So it's like 15 cents per milliliter. So you could use this measurement to figure out the cost of your prints, just multiplying by 0.15. And the thing with Formlabs is their resin ships not from California. It ships all the way from their, I think it's in the Midwest somewhere, their facilities. So what I like to do is go to this store called Source Graphics. And Source Graphics is a local store in Orange County, and they are a reseller. So they resell the printers, they resell the resin, so you can order a lot of different things from them. Let's see, supplies, Formlabs. And the price is the same. It's just that it ships much faster and it's quicker. So I can go to their resin library and then choose what I want and order it from them. I think Matter Hackers has a similar business out of also Orange County. So it really depends what you're ordering and what printer it's for. Okay, another question is the patching. So the patching I was talking about on the cape. Let me show you how I'd go about patching that. And then we'll jump into ZBrush for the rest of today. All right. So, how do you go about patching a hole in a print? Something that is, not that big a deal, but it's annoying and it doesn't look nice. So how do you go about patching something like this? So since this is a resin print, there's a few different things that you can use. I like to use this thing. It's called Tamiya putty, and it's a basic putty that you can just take a little dollop of, rub over the area, and it'll kind of harden and solidify over there, and it'll basically become patchable. So first I'll remove any supports that are in that area. Yep. And most of the support should kind of peel right off for this whole thing, but some of them I like to put with a really large touch point size, so those won't come off. I'll need to use a caliper to clip those. But in this case, I don't need to remove all the supports in order to patch this, because that's the only area that needs patching. Okay, so I'm going to take that Tamiya putty, a little bit of it on my finger, and you can use a little rubber finger tool if you prefer that as well. And you can just come over this hole that you want to patch and start kind of filling it in. Now this putty is really great for filling in little dents, but you can see it's having trouble filling in the hole because it's pretty liquid. It's not that solid. So I'll need to kind of let it build up over time, which is kind of slow. But the idea is that I'd use that putty to kind of fill in that hole bit by bit, and as it hardens, then I'll just sand it. And I sand it and it'll be solid. So I'll put a little bit of that putty on there, but I'll show you a different solution as well. So you can see it's kind of working already. It's just not perfect because it's still quite liquidy putty. So another thing you could use is clay, like Sculpting clay that hardens. So that's one thing you can use, the putty. And this works better for smaller holes. Let's try something different. All right, so I'm just trying to wipe a little bit of that putty off now. And what I'll do is add a little clay there instead. Okay. All right, I'll show you two clays that I use. I don't have the packaging for these, but this clay is Adam Bean CX5. So this is a clay that you can heat up in a microwave or just using a hair dryer, and you can get it to start melting a little bit, and then as soon as it cools, it becomes really, really hard. Or you can use Sculpting. So Sculpting is you can pick up from Blick or any art store. You can just, peel off a little bit of it, and it's really soft. It's very malleable to work with. So it's not like CX5. It's very soft to work with now. But once you patch this hole, say this is what I used to patch the hole. You kind of get it in there. And this is better because it's much harder, so I can like patch the hole relatively quickly. You can kind of even patch it from both sides at the same time. Once I patch this, then all I need to do is use a lighter or some sort of torch to heat up this area, because the way Sculpey works is you just need heat and it becomes really, really hard. So it's the opposite of the CX5 and other clays that when you heat them, they're oil-based. They actually become softer when you heat them. Sculpey becomes hard when you heat it, and it stays hard. All right, so there you go. There's basically a basic patching technique using clay, and there's different techniques you can use. And once this is now, going to become harder once I heat it up, then I'll go in and sand it. And I'm gonna do a primer coat on all of this anyway, so I'm not worried about the look of it because I'm gonna paint over it anyway. All right, so hopefully that answers the patching question. Let's see what else we got. Got some questions about scans, thoughts on 3D scanners. So I don't personally own a scanner. The good ones that I like are the Artec line of scanners, and those are kind of expensive. They're all like 20 grand or so. But you could run a whole business off of just having a scanner. I know some people here in SoCal that do that. So it's not a bad idea to get a scanner. I haven't heard much about the Next Engine scanner, so I'm not sure what that is. All right, done patching for now. So I'll put this stuff away. Get that chair out of the way there as well. Okay, so then let's get back into ZBrush and start sculpting up myself. So I can start based off this Gesaffelstein head that I did for my client, or I could import in and use a scan of my face, since we're talking about scanning briefly. So these are the Artec scanners that I have, used in the past to get some really, really great results. The Eva, the Spider, the looks like they have some new ones, Leo. And then they also have the whole boots that you can get. So you can really do some good stuff with these. So let's take a look at like the Spider. I don't know if the list, oh yeah, so 25K for this kind of scanner. But it gets you, it's handheld, you can walk around, and it records pretty much everything. So it's it's really, really expensive, but that's just the nature of scanners right now. This tech will also come down in price. Eventually your phones will be able to do it. Right now, there's not many good phone scanners. If you have a iPhone XR, you can use Bellis 3D's app to scan your own face, and it works pretty well. You just kind of look at the phone and you look left, right, up, down, and it'll give you a scan of your face. There's algorithms that Facebook and a lot of companies are working on to create face models based off just one photo or two photos. But Bellis 3D's app, I've used it in the past and it works really well, but you just need the latest generation iPhone. Like I have an iPhone 8, I think, or 7, and I can't use it. But I do have a scan of my head, so let me see if I can find that. So I'll load. Go to my personal projects. Let's see. Or it might be in my ZBrush folder. I gotta organize. That's what I should use the end of this year for, is just organizing all of my stuff. All right, here we go. So here's a mask of Scar. So I've got my scan there as well. Pull that up. All right, let's navigate over to it. See if we can find my head scan in there. Very basic look. All right, so here's a scan of my head that I have. And this is kind of the quality you get out of most scanners. It's not like the best possible quality. And you can see it like tries to do a beard and it just kind of can't. But it's pretty good because it gives you, you know, your nose, it gives you the distance of your eyes and ears. It gives you a whole lot. So I'm going to try to take this and turn it into the mask or the little action figure head. I'll append that scan in there. You can see scales off, comes in a bit smaller. I'll move it up into place. A little bit smaller. And we'll move that down. And as like a kid, I always wanted to have more toys that look like me. And there just weren't that many toys that look like me. And so I always gravitated more towards the ninjas and all the characters where you couldn't see their faces as much. A bit smaller. There we go. And move it around a bit. All right. Go over to here. I'll take this select lasso tool, hide that neck. Don't need to worry about that. And we'll go over to this base model that we'll be using. And we can hide bits of that as well. Maybe a little bit of rotation is in order. There we go. And so now I've got my head in place. And that's the real fun of working with 3D scans, is you can get really far really quickly. I used to worry about scans in the past because a lot of 3D modelers love sculpting realistic human heads. And I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be a problem for the industry. But the more I think about it, this is not a problem. This is a good thing. Because then that frees us 3D sculptors up to sculpt things that couldn't exist, rather than those that do exist. So I'm going to go to Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. And I'll do the same thing for this head that was there. So I'll go to Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. And then I can use Dynamesh to close it up. Looks like a pretty cool, clean closing. And I'll kind of use a little bit of H polish there to get rid of that seam. We'll smooth it out in a bit. So from there then, let's see what's happening here. I want to get rid of the inside of my head. There we go. Because we want to keep this bottom part clean. This is the part that's going to key onto that neck and that ball joint for the neck. So I'll keep that clean, and then I'll delete hidden, and I'll Dynamesh again. Up my resolution as I do this. Maybe turn off project and see what happens. Alright, so that's pretty clean, but it looks like there's some interpenetration, so I'll need to go in with my move brush. Just move that out of the way. Alright, that's looking good and clean. Let's see if we want to do something like this. And then I'll merge these two pieces together. I can still make adjustments, like for the chin. I can click on Move Topologize, and that'll only select the parts of the geometry that I'm connecting on, rather than the whole thing. It'd be a bit hard to use sometimes, though. If it's not letting you select it the way you want, then you can go back to your regular Move tool and just tap on Auto Groups, and it'll give me, this is the head. I'll just mask that. Invert that mask, and then I can move this part easily. All right. So now I can merge these two pieces together. I mean, they've already been merged together, but I can Dynamesh them together and then start filling in those seams and doing some sculpting. So if you take a look now, those were two separate poly groups that have been merged together right at the seam. So that seam kind of becomes smoothable. And I can also press Control W to unify the poly group, so it's just one poly group. And just go in and smooth all of this out. Might come back in to add some beard sculpting in a sec. Or let's just do that now. I'll go with a standard brush with color spray and some kind of dotty alpha. Excuse me. Something like this. And just kind of have it come out. Gives the sense of a beard, but I need it to be a lot larger. And I'll come in and do some proper sculpting on this now. Now that we've got the seam filled in. I'm using the clay brush, clay tubes. It's a good way to add build up and work on the form before you get into specifics like detail. You always want to work big to small. You can lower the Z intensity there. And I'll Dynamesh as I go. 500 resolution is a bit high because it's got 2 million polys, and it's just not letting me work a whole hell of a lot. So I'm gonna take it down to 400, and that should smooth a bit easier. All right, so off to a good start. One thing that makes my look more of my look is these days I've got a bit of a man bun. So I'll come back here to the primitives, Aiman brush, go to my insert sphere, just insert a sphere over there. And I can sculpt it into place. Leave symmetry off for now. Split unmasked points. Duplicate that. Just move it a bit. Maybe a little the end of hair sticking out. Man buns always have an end sticking out, doing its thing. I can take all of this, start moving it in. Nudging backwards. While I'm doing this, I can pull up Restream, see if you all have any questions. Okay. Okay. Headshot plugin from Reallusion can create a character from a single front photo. So there's one right there. Quintonius on Twitch is asking if I've used an Ultimaker 3. I've used an Ultimaker in the past. You've won one from a competition, but you have no experience. I haven't used this specific one, the extended 3D printer, but it is very user-friendly from what I've heard. So I'm excited to see what you do with it, man. It's an FDM 3D printer, so it's gonna be like a fishing line spool of PLA plastic that works on there. I recommend doing PLA. ABS is a very hard material to work with, so that's what I'd recommend. All right. Cool. So yeah, if y'all have any questions, just drop them in the Restream chat. I kind of want to check out this plugin, Headshot plugin from Reallusion. Headshot plugin Reallusion. See what comes up. This is the character creator. Yep. So this basically you can give one photo and it'll turn into that character's head, which is pretty nuts, man. That's awesome. So we got a 3D head based off just one photo. Yeah, so for any of you that are interested, check that out. It's called Headshot, the AI-based photo to 3D head. Yeah, it's literally game changing. Like this, the more of these kinds of apps are developed, the less menial work there is for 3D artists to try to do and figure out, and we can move on to more of the art side of things. All right. I'll take this back a little bit. Yeah, Yeah, there'll be a lot of hair sculpting in this project. I can use something like the rake brush to make this a bit easier, where you can kind of just rake backwards. It does a very quick job of filling it in. I'll leave the bottom as is. Yeah, ZBrush has got a lot of powerful brushes. You just have to figure out the right workflows for you. And Dynamesh that right there. Over to here. Create a little bit of a gap there. Same thing on the other end. Need some reference for my own man bun, looking in like the mirror, the webcam. Snake hook's a good brush for this, so you can like very quickly take out a bunch of these little things. And geometry, Dynamesh. Now, since this is going to be printed at toy scale, I don't want to go crazy with that snake hook. Because if I make any of these lines too thin, they're not going to print at all. I could do something like this and see about inflating. There we go. And starfish in the back there. And rake brush is really powerful, but it doesn't really always work from most angles. So you might want to use your damn standard brush and just put on a different alpha. It can be a bit more easily controlled. So at this point, I've done the part of figuring out the 3D print scale. I've already got the head scan in place. And now it's mostly just sculpting hair until I feel it looks more like my head. And I want to make sure that I don't affect any of this area at the bottom. So that's one thing I may want to do, is to just mask it off. Because if that area is too affected, then it won't fit in the print bed anymore. So I can go into my mask tool, take my mask lasso, just kind of drag around this, mask it, and then unmask the top. Now whatever sculpting I do won't affect the core, the important part that I need to stay the same. Might be some interpenetration, but that's dealable. Because I can just come in here and take it back out. Yeah, masking is a really powerful tool, especially in ZBrush. All right. Trying to recreate the feeling of that when you do a man bun, everything kind of gets pulled up into that corner. Let's see here. Go back to just regular alpha on that damn standard. This resolution is a bit high still for sculpting all this hair. I'd want to go quite a bit lower resolution. Let's go from 400 to, wait, no, you know what, I can't, because right now I've got that mask at the bottom. So yeah, I'll just sculpt it as is. Or no, screw it, doing it. The whole point of working in ZBrush with something like Dynamesh is you want to keep Dynameshing whenever you can. It's a powerful, powerful tool. So what you want to do generally with hair is figure out the big volumes first, and then figure out all the detailed small strands. So now that I did a little bit of raking, now I'm going to go over it with my clay brush. Just kind of tamp some of that detail in. And then figure out the big tubes. So I can take clay tubes and use that to do it. Mostly just moving stuff around with the move brush right now until I figure out the right volumes. I had a question from KL Met on YouTube. Just reinstalled Windows. I'm wondering if I can install the exact version of ZBrush I was using before. Don't want to install 2020 yet. Yeah, I think you should be able to get the exact version of ZBrush you were using before. Um, ZBrush has prior installers. I don't personally have them, but if you go to your ZBrush online account, it does let you choose which version of ZBrush you want to download, I think. Because you can choose to download an older version still. I'm not really sure if that helps answer your question. I just think that they do have that option online on their site. So you'll have to go to the Pixologic user site in order to get access to that. So their licensing site, whatever that is. Trying to create the feeling of that hair being taut, like pulled back. But I don't want to add any unnecessary volumes where they don't need to be, because I don't really have curly hair. A little bit of unevenness is good, but I don't have that much curl. I'm kind of going backwards and destroying this detail just so I can get more of the forms right, and then I'll come in and add that detail again. This is one thing I wouldn't miss in the future either, is like just having packs and packs of different hairstyles, and then that's something more that I don't need to sculpt anymore. Because ultimately I think sculpting and modeling and really any kind of creation, it's more about the story you want to tell rather than the process to get there. So all the best sculptors I know have like this massive library of tools that they've built that they pull from so they can speed up their workflow and get to the story of it faster. All right, let's turn off solo. There you go, it's starting to look like me now. Lose some of that volume from the top there, not my forehead. Now I can start going in with damp standard brush and coming up with these more specific, larger strands. That's going to help sell the look a lot better. Hopefully y'all are sculpting along with me and have some cool projects in the works. I always love to hear about what everyone else is working on. There's something really zen about this all for me, like just the act of being able to sculpt They say art is therapy. Sure feels like it. Like I'm a miserable person to be around when I don't do something just trivial for myself, like sculpting or yeah, some sort of creation. I got a question: is am I using a Cintiq? Yes, indeed. I have a Cintiq 27 HD. That is the size. But I've used Wacom for a while. I had use a different alpha. I've had all sorts of Wacoms. I've had just the tablets. I've had more of their. I've tried different brands. I don't know. I just like Wacom. Well, works for me. Cintiq's not for everyone though. Some people prefer the tablets, and I get that. Since this is for a toy, I'm gonna have to try to figure out how to make these gouges a bit more legible and a bit deeper, because otherwise they won't read in the print. They'll be too small. So now once I'm figuring out the larger shapes, now I'm coming in to figure out these smaller shapes. I'm still trying to keep, you know, that lumpiness at bay. So I'm basically just using the damp standard and holding Alt every once in a while to alternate from Z add and Z sub. That's helping me get there quickly. Change the resolution on that again. Exciting to think about. There'll come a time where 3D scanning will be perfect and kind of accessible in your phone or some really small devices. Back into damn standard and just filling it out now. So hair sculpting is something I could probably keep going on forever. It is good to kind of get it settled and move on. Kind of worried about all of this splash in the back. I don't think it'll be able to print. So I might shrink it down, make it more part of the mesh. And that seems a lot more likely to print. Because of the scale we're going for, you got to remember it's going to be about that small. One thing I like to do when I'm sculpting hair is also use this twist brush. I guess it's called spin. Let's see. Here we go, spiral. So with the spiral brush, you can just come in and do something really quickly. Adds that like level of variance that you would expect just fast. It depends. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Probably end some sort of a band in there. So let's see, maybe I'll insert a primitive of a cylinder or torus. No, let's just do a regular sphere. There, move it into place, split it, go into the clip brushes, something like that. Have that mesh be dynameshed, and then rotate it into place. And scale it down a bit. Should have done this from the beginning because now I have a clear point to do the creasing into. And smooth that out. All right, so you got another question from Kimet. I'm using Dynamesh, I guess, to block out limbs. When I do hands, it creates this really ugly merge between the fingers. You would like to keep the fingers separated. If you'd like to keep the fingers separated, you could have them as separate subtools. But if you don't want the Dynamesh to merge multiple pieces together, then you could turn on this groups button that you see on the side of my tool menu here. Dynamesh groups. Well, if you do that, it'll split any multi-model polygroup into separate pieces. So it'll be one subtool, but it'll be kept as separate pieces. So I'll show you how that works. Right now, all of this hair is part of different subtools. So if I want to merge them all together, I'll make sure they all have different group colors. So that's purple, that's blue, this one can be green, and this is really purple. So I'll merge all these pieces together. And just to be sure, I can click auto groups, so we're having them as separate groups. And now if I Dynamesh with my groups turned on, it should keep those pieces separate. Let's try it. There we go. It Dynameshed them, but I should still be able to select each individual piece and kind of move it off if I want. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. It's a pretty straightforward one. So move now is going to move everything. So I'll have to click move topological if I only want to move one of these pieces. Took a little bit, but I'm feeling pretty good about how this Dynamesh is working with our proportions. I'm going to inflate some of these hair strands a little bit so they don't break so easily when we print them at the tiny scale. You know what I haven't done in the longest time with this file is save. So I should save it right now. Save it on the desktop for now as Aiman Wick 1. Got Ben Bicker on Facebook saying hi. What's up, Ben? Thanks for joining. Let's turn some music on while we do some sculpting here. Keep this volume pretty low, but let me know if it gets too loud for you. Check. So I always tend to over sculpt a little bit and then kind of bring it back. I'll add more stuff and then smooth it out. So I've given myself a bit of sleepy eyes. It's kind of rushing through it rather than trying to create a eye sphere in there. But this is basically the workflow that I'll use to finish up the rest of my head sculpt. Finish the hair and a little bit of treatment on it. These ears. Anywhere that could use a bit more detail. Just bounce around this whole model. And then I'm going to print this out. A little mini head for me that I'll put on that body. The John Wick body that we showed earlier. Or I guess at this point I could get any action figure I want. Put my head on. All right. So that's about it for this week's ZBrush live stream for me. I don't know if I'll be back in December. I think I've got a lot of other stuff to work on, but I should see you guys in January 2020. So yeah, if you're interested in 3D printing for ZBrush artists, you can follow me more on the ZBrush live streams. I'll show you some stuff. Let's see here. So you can go to Pixologic.com, ZBrush Live Presenters, and see all of my past broadcasts and schedules there. Once again, my name is Aiman Akhtar. You can see my schedule for when it comes up again, and you can see all the previous live streams I've done here. So there's lots and lots and lots of them, all freely available. You can check out my workflow, see if it helps you out. You can follow more of my work at aiman3d.com. My podcast with Solomon's on there too. And then, what else? What else? Follow Fungusaurs. At Fungusaurs is my latest project with my wife. Our goal is to make our own toy line game animated series. So you can see more about that process. And our Black Friday sale is going on right now at fungusaurs.com. So if you want to support me, buy some toys and help promote my game when it comes out, hopefully in February. Fingers crossed. So once again, that is fungusaurs.com. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to call it a day. Thank you all for joining, and I will see you next time I see you. Cheers.